My name is JD Cummings, and I work for Chipotle Mexican Grill. You're probably familiar with our brand, so I don't probably need to explain much about the company to you. I will tell you my story, though. I've actually, and I have to explain this a little bit, but I've been working in restaurants since I was 8 years old. I grew up in the restaurant business. My dad was moved all around the country as the fix-it general manager. So when his restaurant company was struggling in a particular area, he would move in and we would live there for 6 months to 2 years, turn around the restaurant, and then go to another part of the country. So started in Montana, went to Florida, back to Montana for 6 months, Colorado, Washington, Minnesota, and that's where I went to high school and middle school, and then eventually ended up in college out in Rhode Island. But my story about starting in restaurants when I was 8 years old, my father had moved us to Florida, and he was opening a buffet chain in Florida. Go figure, right? And it was Easter Sunday, and one of his employees had called in sick, and he was down to the bare bones. He didn't have enough people to even cover the schedule that day. So he ignored all child labor laws altogether and invited his 8-year-old son, myself, to go to the restaurant and to bus tables. And if you can imagine, a bunch of gray-haired octogenarians loving, this young child who's there, grabbing plates and taking them over to the little bus station. I walked away from that Easter Sunday with about $80 in my pocket, and instantaneously I said, "Oh my gosh! All you have to do is serve people food and smile at them, and they hand you cash." It would be nearly impossible to pull me away from a career path in the restaurant business after having that experience as an 8-year-old. So when it finally came time for me to graduate from high school and select a college or a university to go to, I will admit I wasn't the greatest student in high school. I sort of felt like maybe many students felt that my school was jamming these general education classes down my throat and really wasn't giving me any options as far as defining what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And I was having trouble applying, what am I going to be doing with calculus? I do not plan on being an engineer someday, and how is that really going to be applicable to me? So why are you making me take this class? So somebody stumbled into my high school, my sophomore, or maybe my junior year of high school, and presented to me about this very unique university called Johnson & Wales University. They have a campus here in Denver at the time. That campus didn't exist. So I was looking at their campus in Providence, Rhode Island. And the one thing that stood out to me is I really enjoyed, I did get to take 1 or 2 business classes when I was in high school. I was involved in an organization called DECA, and I was a state officer with DECA. But one of the things that stood out to me is they said, at our college, when you come here, you can start in your major from day one. You don't have to spend your first 2 years studying general eds. You get to start in your major. And I knew that if I was going to be engaged in my major, I would have a better success rate of getting through college. And in fact, I graduated in 3 years with my bachelor's degree with a 3.8 GPA. So it proved to be a good fit for me. And that's mostly what my story is about finding organizations that are a really good fit for you. And for me, it started at the college level. One of the other stories I want to tell when I was in college, I was studying business at Johnson & Wales. I didn't study culinary or restaurant management. And they gave us 2 options. They said, as a business student, you can choose operations track, or you can choose an HR track for your major to get a management degree. And instantaneously, when I thought of HR, I thought of somebody like Toby from the show The Office. I thought of somebody who's a roadblock to operations, and I thought of somebody that, I don't ever want to be that. Why would I ever want to work in HR? So I chose operations, and my degree is actually in operations. But immediately graduating from school, my mentor at the time, while I was in college, was selected to be the president of the Denver campus. And I had no intention on working in nonprofit and working for a university, and I planned on going out to the big world and working for Accenture as a consultant or doing something really amazing. But sometimes it's about the person, and that mentor to me was somebody that I would follow to the ends of the earth. And if he told me to jump off a bridge or light my shorts on fire, I probably would at least seriously consider it. And so when I found out he was going to be the president of the Denver campus, he asked me to come out and lead the recruiting efforts for the campus here. So I got to spend a number of years traveling all around Colorado and all around the western region, recruiting students to come study at Johnson & Wales. And because it was such a perfect fit school for me, and I knew it wasn't a perfect fit for every student, it was really easy for me to go into a high school classroom or go to a student organization and to identify those students that were just like myself, that were a perfect fit for the organization. So I was a really good recruiter. I was able to find lots of students just like myself that it would be a great fit for. About 7 years into my career at Johnson & Wales, I was living in Minnesota at the time as a regional recruiter for them up there. I called one of my former bosses. I was starting to think about leaving the university. As much as I loved it, I'd sort of reached a pinnacle in my career. I wasn't really going to go anywhere unless I moved to Providence, Rhode Island, and I didn't want to do that. So I called my former boss and said, I need a reference for this job. I got an interview and they're going to be checking my references. And he said, you don't want to work there. And I was like, oh my God, please don't screw this up for me. Like, I just need you to give me a good reference. Like, don't say anything bad. He goes, no. You don't want to work there. You want to come work at Chipotle.